Welcome to Mishna study, Masechet Kilayim, Perek Zayin, Mishna Zayin. In this Mishnah, we're going to speak about if wind came and it blew your vines over grain, right? So now your vines are hovering over this grain, but you didn't do it. It really wasn't your fault, and it was really done by the wind. What do you need to do? Are you allowed to still eat it? Do they become asur? So if you had wind, that was ila'ala. Rambam explains that it comes from the Targum, it comes from the Aramaic word of mitzala'otav, right, from Bereshit, from Adam and Hava, right? It says hadam me'ala'ohi, right? One of its tzila'ot, right, from the tzila'otav, from the ribs, right? And what does it mean over here, right? Ila'ala, it's a verb over here, right? So the wind, it broke, right? It broke the vines, the branches of the geffen, and it had them fall on top of the tivua. Right, so it crushed, it broke it, and now it's spread it over the grains. What do you need to do? Yigrod miyad. Right? Yigrod in modern Hebrew literally means to scrape, ligared. Rambam over here says yafridem v'yasirem miyad. He needs to remove them right away. V'imere ones mutar. And look, if something happened, he was anus, he couldn't get around to it, whatever it is, then it's mutar, right? Because it's not in his control. But once he knows about it, he does need to take care of it. Let's say you had grain that was now leaning underneath the vine, right? So it started, some wind came, or whatever happened, it grew in a certain way, where now it's starting to grow and it's leaning underneath the grapevine. Or similarly, tivua, that's again, not tivua, a vegetable that's also leaning underneath a grapevine. Mahazir ve'eno mekadesh. You need to just bring it back, straighten it up, put it back in its spot, and it's not mekadesh, it doesn't make it asur. Interestingly enough, Rambam doesn't bring this in the Hibur, in the Mishna Torah as a halacha, so I'm not sure how it plays in the halacha. Me'ematay tivua mitkadeshet. At what point does tivua become asur b'hana'a? Mishet tashrish, from when it roots in the ground. Va'anavim, and the grapes itself. Mishi'asu kifol halavan, when it comes about the size of a white bean. Meaning what? Actually, let me just keep reading. Tivua she'avsha kol tzorka, grain that became so dry, right, finished its growth stage. And grapes that have become ripened, fully ripened. And they also do not become asur b'hana'a. So what do we learn from here? If it's so early on, right, where it didn't even root in the ground yet, or the grapes are so small, they're small in the size of a bean, that's not considered in its growth stage. Or if they finished growing, they're fully ripened, that's not considered their growth stage. And we learn from the pasuk, Rambam points out, the pasuk says, right? It needs to be in the stage of tivuat hakarim and meleat hazera, in its growth stage of the grain and in its growth stage of the grapes. So if it's before that, or if it's after that, we're not going to say that it becomes asur. We're going to say that it's totally that it's not asur b'hana'a, because in order for something to become asur b'hana'a, it needs to be mixed. The vine needs to be hovering over the grain, or the grain needs to be also mixed in with the vine at the point when it's still growing, or when it's growing in its appropriate stage. Not too early and not after it's finished growing. And that's the din, that's the halacha, and the end of our Mishnah.